Let me annoy you first of all by saying, are you sick of your taxes paying for criminals to be incarcerated?
Of course.
Yeah, of course you want them in there, so we're protecting the community, but you're sick of your money being spent on PlayStations, 3 meals a day, having a dentist. I've not been able to get a dentist for 2 years, but if I was in jail, I'd have a dentist tomorrow. And this is what everyone's sick of. So I wrote an article a few months ago called Make Crime Stop and Pay. And this is what I want to talk about today. So everybody would be in favour of less crime if it didn't cost us anything, the taxpayer, any more money to have, because you can always triple the police. But can we afford it? No, we can't. So how do we get around this? And it's basically a new way of thinking. So 30 years ago, I was chatting to a friend of mine and he came out with this flippant remark and we had a laugh and a joke over it. And he said, every prison should be hooked up to the national grid and prisoners should be sat on electric bikes, pedaling 8 hours a day, generating electricity. And that can be done now. If you look at the next image, you can now buy these bikes online that create electricity to power your house. So when you're getting fit, you can do it. So I've done a quick calculation, 80,000 prisoners roughly in the UK, pedaling 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, because, let's treat them fairly. They can have weekends off. That would generate over £1 million a year. I know it's nothing in the grand scheme of things, but 30 years ago, that got me thinking. I started thinking about, is there a way that prisons and the criminal justice system could make money so we as a taxpayer could stop funding all this? And the answer is yes. So we've got many empires that were built on forced labour, the British Empire, the Nazi Empire. And at the moment, we've got 80,000 men in jail doing nothing. We're not rehabilitating them, because no one comes out of jail rehabilitated. It's a holding centre. The best a criminal can do in jail is find out and learn a load of new things to do when he gets out by the people he speaks to and shares. I think it's a quarter of all criminals who have been in jail reoffend. If you're in jail for theft, you're 50% likely to come out and reoffend.
Yeah, I think there was recent studies done in America regarding this, looking at the recidivist rates of people coming out of prison, and it was just ridiculous, because I think it was probably more something like, the more rehabilitative a prison that you go to, the more likely you are to go back to criminal offences once you're out, because, like you say, it's so ineffective that people are more likely to commit crimes again when they come out.
It's because we've moved away from punishment to rehabilitation, and rehabilitation doesn't work. Now, does punishment work? Well, that's also debatable, but we know rehabilitation doesn't work because we've had it for 50, 60 years now.
And at the very least, if we just look at it as a pure punishment, we're still getting them off the streets. Yep. We're still making the streets safer by that, and it's a good potential deterrent for others.
So let me have a look here. So it's estimated that crime in the UK costs us all up to 96 billion a year. Now, that's not all government money. That can be, when you've been robbed, it's your personal money that was stolen. So looking at 96 billion a year, and put that into some sort of context, that's 10% of all government spending in a year. That's how much crime is costing us. And it's not costing us in just the ways you think of: police, prison, fixing a window. Let's look at the NHS. The NHS spends £500 million a year on knife crime. Over £1 billion a year is internal fraud at the NHS. So crime is costing us in ways you cannot possibly imagine. And it's about, how do we stop all this? So I've got a 3-point plan, and it's corporal punishment, capital punishment, and detention. So corporal punishment is basically what we used to get at school, what I got at school 40 years ago. So if you commit a low-level crime, you're 17 years old, you commit a bit of criminal damage, we drag you to the police station, and there and then you get offered, right, you're in court tomorrow morning, not 5 months from now, you're in court tomorrow morning. We might even hold you overnight. You're in court tomorrow morning, you're going to see a magistrate, and he's going to pass judgment on you. And it's going to be 5 lashes, And it's going to happen that day in court by a fully trained punishment officer with cameras, so there's no abuse, so we can get around all that sort of stuff.
I think also, Carla's suggested this before as well, making it with the cameras, it could be a bit more public, make people know that this is the punishment.
There will be a public gallery.
Oh, wonderful.
There has to be, otherwise that opens up the punishment then to abuse. And I don't want people being abused. If they get convicted of 5 lashes, that's what they get in a humane sort of way. Not the head's kicked in because now no one's looking. But a gallery can watch that. The idea behind this is a short, sharp shock. So those younger people and adults will commit a crime and they get their punishment within 24 hours. That's how humans have been designed to learn, is consequences straight away. No, I commit a crime today and 6-8 months. I think the average is 7 months to get to a magistrate's court. So
that's just a lot of time to re-offend, to do all sorts.
Re-offend, and you don't learn that lesson. So that's what I'd like to see with low-level offences. You commit too many low-level offences, then it gets racked up. I'd like to see capital punishment brought back. Not hanging.
As would I.
Yeah, not hanging, because that's quite inhumane. I'd like a new capital punishment system for the modern world. So if we look at people we're never going to release, that's a type of torture. If we're never ever going to let you leave jail, well, why are we keeping you for 30, 40, 50 years? That is torture.
On the taxpayers' money as well.
Let's put them out of their misery nice and humanely. So nice injection where it's over and done with, no pain, no force. I don't want to punish these people. I just want them gone. And people tell me that the general public will not go for that. Well, not the people I speak to. I rarely speak to anybody who doesn't want to see paedophiles and murderers. And those 2 guys who murdered the fugitives in London and with machetes.
Yes.
On camera, they're never going to be released. They should be executed. And then people will say, oh, but you're going to execute innocent people. No, we'll have some strict criteria. We'll have a list of it. It has to have DNA. It also has to be caught on video. And it has to be witnessed. No, we could have it where there is no way it wasn't them. And then people will say, oh, somebody could forge the evidence. Well, an officer, a police officer, a court officer, if anybody meddles with a capital case, the punishment for them is a capital punishment because that was attempted murder. That's how we would stop those sort of things. So we've got the technology now to look at this again. That's what I would do with capital punishment. But most people would end up going to jail or being incarcerated. Yeah. I'd like to split that into 2. I would like to have in-home incarceration and prisons. So in-home incarceration will be for people who are not violent, so tax fraud, right? You're still going to go to jail, you're going to get 2 years. Why are we sending you to a Category C prison? And I'll go into the costs of prisons in a minute. Let's make you stay at home, tagged. We've got the technology now.
I mean, from the area that I'm from, I've met plenty of people with the ankle tags and such. Yeah. It's not that uncommon a thing.
Yeah, so they will have curfews. They're allowed to go to work and to keep their jobs.
Well, actually, that's a good point as well, actually, because most of the people that I've known with ankle bracelets and tags and such have been violent criminals. Yeah. So why are we letting them out?
Yeah, I wouldn't let them out. Not violent criminals because they're a danger to society, but ones who are not dangerous. Let them fund their own incarceration. And if they break the rules of the incarceration, then it's Category C prison to you, mate. It's not warning after warning. You didn't, you went to the pub. No, you're straight to Category C prison.
So it's a one strike.
It's a one strike, and that's it. You get one chance of being at home and paying for everything yourself. And then we look at prisons, and prisons at the moment are the naughty step for adults. That's all it is. I want prisons to be tough. I want when someone is looking at 4 years in jail, I want them crying because they know what's coming, and they're going to have to work 5 days a week. They're going to have to earn all their privileges. If they want better, they're going to get basic food, but if they want better food, at the moment, you can buy extra food. You know that in prisons. Your parents can send money in, you can buy this, no. You've got to earn points in jail, and then you can redeem some of those points for better food, for this, for that. That teaches these individuals how to play by the rules, and that you only get what you work for. and I wouldn't have people sat in jail cells for 22 hours a day. They will be working, they will be doing stuff.
Well, I actually know somebody who did go to prison from the area that I'm from, and it was a good example, along with a different person that I knew who went to prison, of how the sentencing in the UK can be very strange in the way that they arrange different sentences for somebody. Because the person who was my friend, who I knew who went to prison, he got drunk, saw a person in town that he knew the night before had drunkenly come to his brother's house and beat his brother up and just got away with it. He felt indignant at that, didn't want the guy to feel like he'd got away with it, so in a drunken stupor he went and beat up this guy in the middle of town in front of a load of people, so there was loads of witnesses. Very, very stupid thing. And he got 7 years for that. And even at the time, he said that, because it was a bit of it was caught on CCTV camera, and he said when he was in the court, he can understand why they gave him that much, because from what footage was caught, it looked pretty brutal. And when he was in prison, he did a lot of these programs and such. He kept his head down and worked hard, and he came out and he is trying to better himself. So, you know, I'm glad for him, but he's also got a good support system and good people around him. But then there was another person that I used to work with when I worked at a call centre, who used to take extended breaks so that he could visit his ill mother. And then about a year after I started, he just vanished altogether until a few weeks later I saw his face on the front cover of the local newspaper. And what it turned out, that when he was on these extended breaks, he'd actually been going to Stoke and grooming an 11-year-old child, and had been caught and arrested for sexually assaulting him. 2 years. That's what he got for being a paedophile and grooming an 11-year-old. 2 years.
Yeah.
And my friend, who understandably made a drunken mistake that he shouldn't have done, got more than triple that time.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Sometimes a lot of the times the sentences don't make any sense whatsoever. But at the moment, we rarely send people to prison because it costs too much, and we've got no money. What does the average prisoner cost in the UK to house?
I don't know.
If we scroll up, so 2 years ago, it was nearly £45,000 a year. So if you gave criminals £45,000 a year, some of them would stop being criminals.
Yeah.
You could pay them to stop being criminals, which I would never, ever do. But that's how much it costs to house an average prisoner in England and Wales 2 years ago. It was nearly £45,000 a year. And that's only for an average prisoner. If you're a dangerous prisoner, if you look at the next one, the next image, £82,000 a year if you're a dangerous Category A prisoner.
Okay, so this East Yorkshire jail, is that one where they take the, like you say, the dangerous category?
Yeah.
Okay.
Category A, dangerous prisoners, £82,000 a year. This is why we're not sending people to prison, because it costs the taxpayer a fortune, and the government has no money and hasn't now for 10, 15 years. But this shouldn't be the answer of why we allow dangerous, violent people to mix with the ordinary citizens, because that puts us all at risk. Now, this isn't even a lot of money when you look at a high-profile person. If you look at the next image, Ian Brady, who was one of the Moors murderers, who died a couple of years ago, he cost us £14 million to incarcerate. 14 million for one man.
And that will also be relatives of the victims as well, through taxes. Just having to pay for that.
Yeah.
There's no justice in that, as far as I'm concerned. The guy's off the streets, yes, but he died in prison.
Yep.
He spent 50 years there, wasting our money. The only argument I've really seen that's even remotely convincing against capital punishment in situations like this is that I've seen some people argue that the appeals process can end up wasting the taxpayers more money in a short space of time than they end up lasting for a long space of time. But I also think that there's a good argument to be made for the deterrence of a capital punishment. To a certain extent, if you're going to go to prison for 50 years, I know that you said it's torture. I think some people can see that as basically getting off with it. You know, at the end of the day, you get to sit around for the next 50 years, not have to worry about how you're going to maintain or feed or clothe yourself. There's a certain leisure that you could take from that. Whereas if you know that, no, if I get caught, that's it.
Lots of studies on sentencing, and a lot of them say there's no evidence whatsoever that sentences deter crime, because when you're committing crime, you have no intentions of getting caught.
Oh, that's true.
So what stops people committing crime is the likelihood of getting caught, not the sentence. So we need to make sure more criminals are caught. It's advertised more and everybody knows. That's how you stop criminals committing crime, not by saying, if you commit crime, we're locking you up for 50 years. And they go, well, I've been committing crime for 15 years. You've never caught me. You never will. That doesn't work. But Ian Brady, we're never going to let him out. We should have executed him a long time ago. And the appeals issue, well, we need to create a new system where it's not 2 decades of appeals, because he's been proven guilty. It's all evidence is there, DNA, video. It's all there, so it should be a quick process. But again, none of this is going to happen in my lifetime because we're missing one vital ingredient, and it's politicians with a backbone. And we don't breed any of them, so this isn't going to happen. If we look at the next slide, how do we make prisons pay for themselves? Because that's what I basically want them to do. Instead of costing us, it's $9 billion a year, I would like prisons to actually be making $5 billion a year in profit, so it doesn't cost the taxpayer anything. They generate money for the taxpayer. And how do we do that? Well, every prisoner should be working 5 days a week. Every prisoner will have different skills. So if we've got a computer genius, we've got a hacker, we've got a programmer, well, people can work from home now. So why can't they work from home in their cell? They have a computer, limited access to the internet. We put all that in, and they're making money for the prison, and they earn privilege points by doing it. So they could earn their keep. For the less dangerous people, we could have day release. We're short of fruit pickers and food operatives and warehouse packers. They could be bussed out every day to factories and do a proper full-time job and bust back. And those wages go to the prison. They earn some extra privileges because of it. All these things are definitely doable. Some of them could even be trusted in the open prisons to go out and work by themselves and come back by themselves, because they know, if I mess this up, I'm not in open prison anymore now. I'm going to a category B. So we give them the responsibility to improve their own lives as well as make money. And if they mess up, well, they get punished and they go to a higher category prison, and everybody else knows what the punishment is. And we've got to teach them personal responsibility. That's how they would work. And then if we're looking at some of the minor offences, so if you got pulled in court now for graffiti or littering, let's say you're walking home drunk and you smash a load of bottles on your own, police turn up and arrest you for disturbance of the peace in court, and it's like, yep, guilty, £100 fine. Well, that's fine, £100 is fine. And let's say you're unemployed. £100 fine to an unemployed person is approximately 130% of your weekly wage benefit. So if you're a multimillionaire and you do the same thing, should you get a £100 fine? Or should you be fined 130% of your weekly income, which then might be £9,000, because that hits you the same as it hits that person?
Yeah, I've heard of a phenomenon like this where, people who are rich will be the ones, speeding down the motorway. They'll be the ones breaking traffic laws because you can afford to pay them off when you get fines and tickets.
We have footballers in Manchester City Centre, the big rich footballers, who park outside the restaurant on double yellow lines and get a £30 parking ticket. Well,
why do they care?
It's £30 and I park right out, so they know what they're doing. They're not inconsiderate. They just, I'll just pay it. And that is unfair to poorer people. We need to be treated equally. So it should be a percentage of your wage of how we fine you. All that money then gets ploughed back into the taxpayer. We also need to look at full cost recovery. So if you end up being investigated by the police, going to court, being found guilty, there needs to be a simple slide rule of working out how much that costs the police and the court time. Not £150 contributory cost. You may work out, well, that's £9,500. So not only are you found guilty, you're now subject to a £9,000 full cost recovery plan, because we want all that money back off you because you were found guilty. The argument will be, well, these people haven't got money. I'm tired of people saying to me that only poor people commit crime. Everyone commits crime. If you commit crime and you've got a £9,000 bill and you own your own house, well, you've got collateral. The government can put that £9,000 bill on your house, which means the day you sell it, the government gets £9,000 the same day. You own businesses, people own businesses. It's not just council estate kids who commit crime who've got nothing. And let's say you've got nothing, but then a year from now you win the lottery. There needs to be a way we can then claw some of that lottery money back off you because of what you've cost us in the past. So it's never written off. It's never forgotten. If you allow the government and the taxman the power, they will find that money and get that money off you somehow, because that's what they've been doing for hundreds of years. This is the way we need to start looking at it, instead of you're being convicted, you go to jail, you're out, and it's all okay. Well, no, you owe society a huge bill, mate, and we're going to get it off you. There's ways we can make prison and the criminal justice system pay for itself.
All very interesting. The only thing I would say would be the potential worry of, if we have, such open work schemes obviously it wouldn't be open work schemes or anything like that, but there could be the potential of people within prisons competing with people who are just, trying to live their lives outside of prison, for competing for the same work and jobs, which could push wages down. But I think at the moment...
we have that now. It's called mass immigration.
Yeah, exactly. We've got that right now. So if we were able to calm down the immigration a bit, then it certainly would work out.
And we've also got a huge shortage of workers in the country.
Yes, we do. I think across the West right now, there's a massive amount of people who are just quitting.
Yep.
Not because of the fact that they can't work anymore, but because they don't want to work anymore. Because I think a lot of people are realising that their jobs are worthless and meaningless and don't provide any satisfaction in their lives. So if those sorts of people are looking to quit and find different ways of living their lives, then if we've got shortages, I'm sure there are plenty of people in prison who can make up for those shortages. So very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that all with us, Nick. And I'm sure the comments below will be very interesting. We can take a look at those in a few minutes.
Make crime pay.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for watching that segment from the podcast Lotus Eaters. If you enjoyed that and want to find more, you can subscribe to our website and become a premium member today to access all of our exclusive content, including this recent contemplations Josh and I did, where we were discussing whether protectionism is better than free trade. And if you'd like to find more from Josh, you can find him on Getter at Josh_firm. Thank you and goodbye.